And welcome back to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. This is our Market Fresh Hour. I am your host, Randall White. 33 minutes past the hour. Great to have you with us today. We should let you know that this hour of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio is brought to you by the 4th Annual Central Coast Bioneers Conference, now just a few weeks away, October 25th through the 27th at the Monday Club. That is in San Luis Obispo, California. You will hear the nation's leading thinkers in ecoscience, social and environmental activism, the new food system economy, and more. There are field trips, local workshops, music, food, and there's also a green marketplace. Bring your broken items. This is reason to go alone right here. Bring your broken items to iFixit's Repair Cafe on Friday, October 25th. They can show you how to fix just about anything. iFixit, really up and coming. Also, the keynote speaker that day will be Drew Dellinger, founder of Global Poets for Justice. Enjoy the Green Chef Cook-Off then on Saturday night, October the 26th, with dancing to the Mother Corn Shuckers, wine, and a great selection of Figueroa Mountain beers. Tickets are on sale right now at centralcoastbioneers.org. All right, time to do a little consideration regarding the colorful garden plants you likely have sprinkled throughout your yard. Now think about it. Where'd you buy them? And, did they hold up pretty well? Are they beautiful? What's the bee population like in your backyard? There are new studies that show the plants bought at some of the nation's largest chains are pre-treated with pesticides. So even if your backyard is organic and you do everything you can to limit your use of pesticides and those sorts of things, the plants you buy and then bring into your yard may already come pre-soaked with this sort of stuff. And then that is transferred to the bees. And, if you're like my parents, they had a really hard time growing zucchini this year because they just weren't getting any pollination. Joining us on the line right now to talk about this issue is Lisa Archer. She's with the Friends of the Earth Bee Action Campaign, and she joins us on the Market Fresh Live line right now. Hey, Lisa.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, this is interesting to me because my backyard is filled with plants that I bought down the street at a national chain.
Yep.
And we have had bee issues in our backyard, and I was scratching my head thinking, what is the deal? What's going on here? And so tell us about what you've learned regarding these plants that people buy at your Lowe's, your Home Depot. I'm sure there are some other ones out there, and how they are affecting local bee populations.
Sure. So Friends of the Earth worked with the Pesticide Research Institute to test plants from 3 different cities across the country, from the San Francisco Bay Area, from the Minneapolis area, and from the Washington, D.C. area, to get an idea of whether bee killing and harming pesticides called neonicotinoids, which are a key factor in the global decline of bees and other important pollinators, if those were actually being used in our bee-friendly plants. And so what we did in this first-of-its-kind study is that we found that over half of the common garden plants, most of them actually bee-attractive, bee-friendly plants purchased at these top retailers, including Lowe's and Home Depot, contained neonicotinoid pesticides, which studies show can harm or kill bees and other pollinators, and there was no warning to consumers. And so these are actually soil treatments. They're actually treated in nurseries before they're sent to your Home Depot or Lowe's often, and they can also be used. They can also be leaf treatments. So this happens in the nursery. There's no warning to consumers that these pesticides have been used. And unfortunately, because these pesticides are systemic pesticides, that means they're taken up through the soil, up into the plant, and they're expressed in the nectar and the pollen that bees and butterflies and other pollinators take back to their hives and use as food. Gardeners may actually be harming bees without even realizing it. Now, bees and other pollinators, which are essential to pollinate 2/3 of the food crops grown around the world, are in great peril, and populations are dwindling worldwide.
Yeah.
Everything from your almonds to your apples to soybeans and watermelons and zucchini, as you mentioned, rely on bees for pollination. And without bees, we'd have a pretty bland diet. So we were quite concerned when we learned that not only are these pesticides being used in agriculture, and neonicotinoids are actually the most popular pesticide in the world, which is one of the reasons that scientists are concerned about their use and their links to global bee declines. But we wanted to find out if they were also being used in bee havens, which our backyards should really be, and public gardens and other spaces like this. And what we found was very disturbing. And as a home gardener myself, I try really hard to not use pesticides in my backyard and create habitat for bees and other wildlife. And unfortunately, I have actually bought some of these plants and found out that I may actually be poisoning bees, and I think I'm helping them.
Yeah, really disheartening for me to find this information out because we were having a problem with bees in the backyard, and so we specifically bought colorful plants to help attract the bees to the yard, and little did I know that we might be poisoning them in the process. Lisa, what has been the reaction from some of these larger chains regarding this practice? Is it something that they say they're poised to stop, or what have you found?
Sure. So when we released this report, we shared it with Home Depot and Lowe's and Orchard Supply Hardware, as well as other garden retailers. And we sent a sign-on letter with groups, ally groups from across the country. And thus far, the only response we've gotten is from Home Depot, and they responded to the press. We got a bunch of press on this report, which is great to educate a lot of consumers and folks around the country. But they said that they were very concerned about bees, and that they would contact the study authors, and we have yet to hear from them. So that's why we're actually asking all of you and folks across the country to contact Home Depot and Lowe's. You can go to Bee Action, that's BEE action.org, and there's an action there where you can actually write to Home Depot and Lowe's CEOs and let them know that you care about this and ask them to stop selling bee-killing pesticides. So these pesticides are not only in the pre-poisoned bee-friendly plants that you might purchase for your garden, but they're also in off-the-shelf systemic plant treatments. This is something else you want to avoid. Right. And these are often called, Grub X is one really popular one that people use on lawns to kill grubs. It ends up in the clover that grows on your lawns that can actually poison bees. There's also a lot of tree treatments, for example. So they're called systemic plant treatments. They look like they're tree food, but in reality, they contain pesticides like imidacloprid. So one great thing is you can look on the label of these products in your Home Depot and Lowe's and look for the active ingredients, the pesticides. They're in a tiny font in the front, usually, of the product. And we actually have a list of these pesticides in a report that you can also find at beaction.org. That's beeaction.org. The long term, we would really urge these retailers, the big box ones, but also the smaller mom and pop local garden centers, which I try to shop at actually, and support. We're asking all of these garden centers to tell their suppliers to not pre-poison the plants with bee-killing pesticides. They're not essential to healthy plants, but they are harming bees. The other thing we're asking them to do is to take these bee-killing pesticides off their shelves.
Yeah, we
know they can do it. This is the thing. In the European Union, they have looked at this huge body of science saying that these bee-killing pesticides, the neonicotinoids, which are used on 140 crops around the world, and are the Bayer and Syngenta's number one selling products, which are these pesticide chemical companies that sell them. The European Union has looked at the body of science and this is a key contributing factor to bee declines, among many others. But this is one we have control over, and they've banned the use of these pesticides for the next 2 years in flowering crops, which is a great start. And what happened next is that Friends of the Earth in the UK, our sister group, worked with allies to get retailers there to stop selling bee-killing pesticides. So A, we know that the retailers can do it, and B, we know that our government can and should do something similar to what's happening in Europe, which is the other thing we're asking folks to help do, which is to tell Congress to support the Save America's Pollinators Act, which would do essentially what European Union has done and pull these bee-killing pesticides out of agriculture to protect the pollinators we need for our food supply.
Save America's Pollinators Act. There's an actual it's already written up and everything?
It is. It was introduced by Representatives Conyers and Blumenauer, and I believe it's got a bunch of co-sponsors. And so, one thing you can do today, there's actually two things, is to visit beaction.org.
Hey, Lisa, I just want to stop you right there. Beaction.org. Sure. If you go to that, does it forward you to foe.org/beaction?
It does indeed.
Okay, good, because that's what I have listed on our video simulcast. I just want to make sure I'm not misdirecting people. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a shortcut. And there's two actions folks can take there, sending a letter to Home Depot and Lowe's, and also telling Congress to stand up for bees and support the Save America's Pollinators Act, because we know it's possible.
Yeah.
It's happened in Europe, and it's something we've got to do. We can start in our backyards, and I always like to say, start with the personal, go to the political. Start in your backyard. There's things you can do to ensure your yard is a haven for bees. And, planting bee-friendly plants is one of those things.
Yeah.
The second thing you can do is make sure those plants are not pre-treated with neonicotinoids. Ask your garden center for neonic-free plants.
Those neonicotinoids are just poison. They're awful. And, it is a pocketbook issue, as it always is for, all of these companies. And they don't want the plants to die. And they know that a lot of these companies have policies. You can bring the plants back if they die and stuff. So it's an insurance policy for them. But if they're not selling them to begin with, then that's a pocketbook issue for them, too. So if you let Home Depot, Lowe's, Orchard Supply, all the different ones, even your local ones, let them know you won't buy these plants if they're pre-treated, they'll stop selling them. Lisa Archer, exactly. Friends of the Earth, foe.org/beaction or beaction.org. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
All right, stick around, everyone. We're back in just a moment.